Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Political Job Interview, where I interview candidates running for election. I'm Vincenzo Calla, the host, and today I take on the role as the boss, giving a job interview to today's candidate, Miranda Gray. Miranda is running for election for Ottawa City Council as a candidate for Ward 11, Beacon Hill-Cyrville. Thank you, Miranda, for your time, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's great to have you, and let's get this job interview started. As with any good job interview, I'm going to start off with an opportunity to learn more about Miranda. So the first question is, can you tell me a bit about yourself and your story?
Well, I was thinking about this, thinking more of the question of when did you get interested in politics? And for me, that's actually an Ottawa story. I didn't grow up in this area, but my mother was involved in community radio when I was in kindergarten, and she brought me to see a CRTC meeting on the Hill. So that was my first exposure to politics, and it was here in Ottawa. So that's where I first got my taste of politics, and it went on from there.
And I wanted to ask you now, why have you decided to run for this position? Like, what made you decide that you were going to run for council? Why now? Just why?
Sure. I think that the different why for me is why this ward. I ran
Yeah.
in a different ward in 2018. I ran for council because I was frustrated about trying to give feedback without actually having as much voice as I wanted. And that's still why I'm running. There's not much more I can do as a person making delegations and lobbying council other than form a lobbyist group and do it full time. But what I really want is to have more voice when talking to staff and be able to ask questions and have them answered. As a member of the public, you can't ask questions of staff directly, and they won't be answered if you do ask them in your delegation. And I find that incredibly frustrating.
So let's take a bit of time now to talk about the job and what you bring to it. So what experience do you bring to the job of counselor?
Sure, in my current role, I'm a project manager. So my job is to follow up on whether milestones for a project are reached, whether we're on track for our goals. My job there is to ask the right questions to convince my developers to do the right thing, which I think is relevant to the role that counselors play with staff. Before that, I worked for IBM in the public sector consulting division, and I was in the change management practice, which is about running large projects and making sure that the users that are involved understand what's in it for them. And when we do a lot of discussions around the city, we don't explain to residents what's in it for them to make a decision. So I think that's a very relevant experience, the storytelling behind that, the knowing how to ask good questions, and the knowing how to explain the answers back to people in plain language. Those are all skills that I would bring to this job.
And I wanted to ask you now, there's not very many candidates running in this ward, but I wanted to ask you what sets you apart from the others who are running alongside you.
Well, there's actually only two of us now. Nicholas has dropped out. He notified Tim and I of that a while ago, but there's no way to officially get your name off the ballot at this point. So he'll still be on the ballot. What makes me different from Tim is that I really enjoy public consultations and meetings and asking questions in meetings. Now, I attend a lot of city council meetings because I work from home, and it's something I can have in the background while I'm working on things like analyzing data. And one of the things I've noticed is Tim falls in the category of councillors that don't ask any questions of public delegations, that rarely make any comments on motions. Have a strong opinion person, ask good questions, and willing to change my mind if I hear answers that explain what I'm worried about. I think that sets me apart from Tim Tierney.
Part of serving as an elected official is serving the people who elect you. So a few questions now about how you want to serve the people. So the first one is, what's something that the people of Beacon Hill-Cyrville need that you want to get done if elected?
Well, I think the biggest change that people are going to see in Beacon Hill and Cyrville, and the people in Pineview who are left out of the name, is the amount of change there'll be in housing stock in the next 4 years, either built or planned to be built. So the city master plan involves a lot of infill. Previously, that was in the innermost core, but it's going to spread out to the green belt, and we're in that group of people. So there's a number of projects that are planned, and there'll be more that come along. And we also have some older townhouse rental properties that'll probably get some kind of upgrade to make them more dense or to replace existing housing that's there. So all of that relates to doing consultations and explaining why we need to have a denser city to keep our city affordable. So those are conversations I want to be part of. And I think this ward is right on the cusp of transformative change. And I want to be part of those discussions and helping people understand why the city needs to evolve and change and make sure that we protect the jewels of the area so the magic parts don't disappear and that we can be a space where more neighbors can join us.
What's one accomplishment that you've achieved that demonstrates why you'll be a good elected official if the people choose you?
Well, let's see. It could be that I've worked on a community association. So I've been a president of a community association, which, is involved in things like making sure that people understood why there was a Habitat for Humanity thing coming in. And I'm certainly very active on Twitter explaining things the city has done to other people. So if you look back at the windstorm, one of the things I chose to do with my time, since I'm not built for cutting down trees, was to explain the very sparse answers we were getting from officials in Hydro Ottawa. So explaining things about how the grid works, why you don't get power back right away, why your neighbor might have power and you might not. So I think my ability to explain things in 240 characters is a skill that's very useful to people that think politicians are long-winded. The general complaint I get is that I'm too terse. But I think that's helpful when we're dealing with complicated things to have the practice of boiling down a complicated idea into one or two tweets so it's nice and short.
Thank you, Miranda, so much for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me. It was great to have this conversation with you.
Well, it was great having you, and I'm sure the viewers have enjoyed hearing what you have to offer to them. So Election Day is October 24th, 2022, and if you liked hearing what Miranda Gray had to say and live in Ward 11, Beacon Hill-Cyrville, you have the opportunity to vote for her on Election Day. Check with your local election officials for more details. To stay updated, make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at bcproductions25. Check out my website, VincenzoCalla.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, and choose to get notifications here on YouTube. The Political Job Interview is a VCalla production. So until the next video, I'm Vincenzo Calla, signing out.